This week on MBC Connect, I sat down with Mike Couch, Executive Director of Central State Redevelopment Authority, discussing recent legislation and their plans for the future. Stay with us. Thank you for joining us for this week's edition of MBC Connect. I'm your host, April Bragg, and my guest this week is Mike Couch, the Executive Director of the Central State Development Authority. Mike, welcome to the show.
Good morning, April. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Now let's just talk about the Development Authority and how you guys got started back in 2012.
Sure.
I guess that was with House Bill 815.
That is correct. House Bill 815, 2012 session, signed by Governor Deal. We stood up as an authority in July of that year, and we've been operating for about 18 months now as a development authority chartered with repurposing the old Central State Hospital campus.
Great. Well, I know that this year was an especially active session for you guys, and you had a lot of lead-up work that you were working on, your board and advocates for the authority, working with our legislators and lobbying for House Bill 495, and then of course the Senate Resolution 788. Those passed. Tell us what that means for the future here.
Absolutely. We actually started the process with Governor Deal about a year ago, where we told him that we now have the authority, but we need a mechanism whereby we can access the property and then cut some time as far as conveying the property to private partners. We briefed Governor Deal in October this year. We took political leadership up, our Senator Jones, Mr. Kidd, local leadership, and we asked the governor's support on both those tools, HB 495 and SR 788. House Bill 495 really is the market-ready piece, and the neat thing about it, it really affects state property statewide, so it wasn't just something for Milledgeville, but we knew there was a chink in the armor of disposing of state property in the state of Georgia. Takes too long. It was taking about 520 days from the time that the property was declared surplus till someone could actually get on the property, perhaps a private builder, and do something with it. So HB 495 cuts the time. It allows me to negotiate directly with the State Property Commission as far as conveyance goes. It takes kind of the politics out of the whole process. The other piece, State Resolution 788, which is the omnibus legislation for State Property Commission they do every year, we knew we need to have the property declared surplus. So in that, we were able to get both agencies, Department of Behavioral Health and Corrections, to declare most of the campus surplus. We got about 2,000 acres to work with and about 200 buildings now. So market ready, real estate ready to go to work now.
Well, that's exciting, and I know you guys have seen a lot of activity. You know, one of my recent guests was with the Georgia Department of Economic Development, talking about film. Sure. And film activity. Talk about some of the things that this will open up the doors for, and some things you're already seeing as a result.
Well, I'm going to give Jane Soul, our local film guru, credit for that. She was able to access to the Georgia Film Commission some productions, most recently the originals that filmed on campus back in December. Not sure what the series is about, but they used the Jones Building, one of those prison buildings, and the economic impact is unbelievable. About $320,000 those folks left in Milledgeville. We think that's obviously a branch to repurposing that campus, that we can use those great old buildings and bring some film industry into the campus.
Well, and I think one of the greater impacts that you touched on about House Bill 495 is that it's not just a local initiative, that this really is something with statewide impact that will free up property and expedite a process. You mentioned about property being declared surplus and then going through such an exhaustive process, and something that people outside of economic development might not recognize is that, you know, these properties aren't able to even be marketed, you know, that they're available. You know, Milledgeville has a disproportionate, in Baldwin County, a disproportionate amount of state property, but we can't market that as economic developers, that it's even available until it's declared surplus. And then if we're not in session, of course, there's no way to utilize that. So speak to that a little bit about how this process works.
Well, we knew we had great opportunity there with the structures, the building. It's almost like a small city, but without a market-ready mechanism, I can't compete. I couldn't compete with any other industrial development, commercial development throughout the state of Georgia. The neat thing about this, we made it a statewide effort, and we brought in the State Property Commission Oversight Committee from the House, and they saw our briefing. They saw merit in what we were doing. They saw it not only would impact Baldwin County, but also other counties that were affected by surplus properties throughout the state of Georgia. Time's your worst enemy. We had to be able to get to these properties and have them declared surplus.
Gotcha. Well, when we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Mike about some things that are on the immediate horizon as far as planning and the future of that campus. Stay with us.
My new mom and I have a lot in common.
The great outside.
We both love the outdoors.
So shiny.
That's not a flower. We both love geology.
Oh, look. An igneous one.
That's not a rock. And she knows a lot about wildlife.
A labradoodle.
That's not a dog. Hanging out has been kind of fun.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
Yo, check out this chef, right? Right? That's so gay. That's really gay. Dude, look at those pants.
Please don't say that.
What?
Don't say that something is gay when you mean that something is dumb or stupid. It's insulting. It's like if I thought this pepper shaker was stupid and I said, man, this pepper shaker is so 16-year-old boy with a cheesy mustache. Just saying. When you say that's so gay, do you realize what you say? Knock it off.
Oh!
Checking your fantasy league?
Nah, just my 401k statement.
Nice. Where'd you find the money for that?
I just been saving a little every month.
I can't seem to save anything.
Well, what about all this? What about the money you're spending?
What money? It's gone before I can get my hands on it.
I got a pizza for a Todd.
Hey, can somebody spot me?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind.
It's 547.
Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org.
We're back on MBC Connect. I'm here with my guest, Mike Couch, and we're talking about the Central State Redevelopment Authority. Mike, when we left, we were talking about the legislation that passed this session, what's on the horizon, and of course, you just had your first private sale. Tell us a little bit about that transaction, how things went down, and where we're going.
Well, absolutely. We were very quiet about Correct Health, LLC, which is a company out of Atlanta, headquartered in Atlanta. It's a physician-owned company that specializes in really care within the prison system throughout a multitude of southeastern states. We've been working on that project for almost a year now, very quietly. We saw the opportunity. We saw that, number one, it blended what we saw as the future of the campus. And we're fortunate, about 3 weeks ago, we closed on the first 16-acre sales transaction, and they fully intend to start building a completely new facility sometime late summer this summer. Building will be a 280-bed geriatric care facility. They found a need as they've evolved their prison care that there's a group of parolees within the Georgia prison system that have no place to go. Often they're debilitated by health issues, or they have no nursing home that will accept them. Dr. Musso, who's the CEO of the company, saw the opportunity. He seized it, and we're glad to have him. We figure it's about a $21 million facility that will be built there, 280 beds. Immediate impact 2016, 225 new jobs for Milledgeville, Baldwin County. And much to the happiness of the city and county, about $300,000 in real estate taxes because they didn't ask for a tax abatement. Very pleased.
Gotcha. And what do you think are some of the driving factors as to why we were well suited for this particular?
Well, I think when you look at the campus, it always was a place that people were cared for, whether it be the psychiatric client that was there for hundreds of years, or the kid hospital, which actually is a full surgical medical hospital. I think Dr. Musso has been looking at Milledgeville for about 2 years. He saw the opportunity. He understands where the market opportunity is within the Georgia prison system, and we just stayed with him. We never let him get away from us.
Right. Well, and I think one thing that's been on the forefront of the minds of your board, and something that you've done a good job of sharing with us, is that, you know, you're not going about this haphazardly or just taking everything that walks in the door.
Yeah.
That you want to be very strategic and making sure that you have a plan, that you involve community stakeholders, and you guys are actually, you know, in the early stages in working through your own strategic planning and bringing in, you know, a consulting group for that. So give us an update on that process and where things stand.
Very fortunate. We contacted a group in Chicago. It's called CRE, Councils of Real Estate. CRE is a very selective group. It's a not-for-profit. It's real estate professionals, everything from banking to final engineering and construction. We invited 2 members of their executive committee down in January to sit and talk with us about the Central State Hospital campus. We looked at their track record. We looked at the benefit we thought they offered. And we were fortunate. 2 of their folks came down, spent a couple days with us in January. CRE only does 8 projects a year as a of the magnitude of the state hospital, we're fortunate they've selected the state hospital as one of their 8 projects for 2014. And they'll be on the ground late April, early May with their team chief. They'll be back with a team of 8 to 10 professionals late May, early June. And our real goal is to not get so far ahead that we foul up something for the future. We think CRE with their disciplines, their regimen they'll bring to us, they'll reestablish a kind of a benchmark and a guideline for us to follow, and we look forward to plugging into the strategic plan for the community.
Now, what is the scope of work that they'll be providing for you? Is it primarily, the campus itself and the type of recruitment that you'll be looking for in your targets, or is it a more holistic approach?
No, I think we're very specific. It's a real estate project, and we're looking now at the state hospital. What are the assets?
Right.
What are the natural characteristics of those assets? And CRE will come in and look at streets, weaknesses, opportunities, and target markets. And when they leave, we'll have a pretty good roadmap to get down. We don't want to make a mistake that we go off in the wrong direction.
Right.
Again, we've got a multitude of different characteristics and buildings out there. We want to be sure we've got some help putting that together and bringing in some of the renowned professionals they'll bring to Milledgeville. It's not only going to be good for the state hospital, but also for the community, we believe. So they'll leave us with a plan, with at least some thoughts of where we should head based on what the different development characteristics of different parcels are out there.
Yeah, well, and I think you've hit on several things that are, critically important. I think, understanding that it really is a small city. I mean, out there, you mentioned 200 buildings, about 2,000 acres.
2,144, yeah.
Wow, and so there's a lot to consider. Also, but how does that mesh with the community as a whole? And as you mentioned, the community is going through a community-wide strategic planning process and looking for opportunities for us to overlay and make sure that we integrate, what's going on with the campus into our planning, and that those are complementary of one another. I think is vitally important. And also the opportunity for community engagement out there. This past weekend was a prime example of that with the April Fool's Ride. Tell us a little bit about the activities that were on campus then.
Actually, we've worked very closely with the Milledgeville Bike Club every April, the 2 Aprils we've been there. Tom Glover does a wonderful job. He also has a business at the State Hospital campus. He brought 85 riders from all over Central Georgia as far as Atlanta to do their road march to wherever they go out there. But we also did Arts in the Orchard. We've got that beautiful old pecan orchard out there. We had 10 vendors there. We had live music in the afternoon. And again, we need to bring activity and awareness to the campus. And first of many, we hope, but again, it was a good first step anyway.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great start. When we come back, I'm going to be speaking with Mike about the impact that the authority has had to date and where they see themselves in the future. So come right back with us.
The next 30 seconds can save you a lot of money. Just do your laundry in cold and stick to full loads. Auto-sleep your computers. Plug your gadgets in a power strip and switch it off when you're done. Headed out? Turn back your thermostat by 10 degrees. And drive sensibly. The more energy you save, the more money you save. Find other great tips at energysaver.gov.
Checking your fantasy league?
Nah, just my 401k statement.
Nice. Where'd you find the money for that?
I just been saving a little every month.
I can't seem to save anything.
Well, what about all this? What about the money you're spending?
What money? It's gone before I can get my hands on it.
I got a pizza for a Todd.
Hey, can somebody spot me?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind.
It's 547.
Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Ready or not, here I come.
Take time to be a dad today.
Daddy, I'm gonna find you.
Thank you for joining us with MBC Connect. I've got my guest Mike Couch, and we're discussing the Central State Redevelopment Authority. Mike, when we left off, we were talking about your plans, where you go from here. Let's just talk a little bit about the impact that the authority has had to date, and what you guys are working on at the core of your organization.
Sure. I like to really, there's two impacts. I think there's a practical impact and there's emotional impact. Number one, the emotional impact, we're starting to have some activity out there. And given what the state hospital was in 1960, it was the economic driver for the community, just bringing some life back to the campus, I think is emotionally, not only for the Central State, emotionally important for State Hospital, also for the south side of Milledgeville. But practically, and I can validate this, I briefed the county commissioners last Tuesday night, we believe in 2014 we'll have almost $29 million impact just on the State Hospital campus, as evidenced by Correct Health's project, and that's not counting their annual employment payroll that'll start in 2016, but also our businesses we relocated, such as Cogenis, the Wilkes Building with Steps DEA, and Chapel Number 3. So we've got to look at that. And another piece we really don't talk about very much, the infrastructure out there is extremely valuable. The state has agreed to convey the water system to the city of Milledgeville for nothing. They agreed to pay off a $2 million bond, and the economic value of that water system is about $4 million. So you add that up, it's just a little bit short of $30 million in 18 months worth of existence we've had as an authority.
Wow, well, that's amazing. Tell me in your own words, I guess, how does the authority envision leveraging economic development in the future?
I think, I like to talk about when I left Milledgeville in 1973. When I left in 73 and went in the military, we were a state town. Central State Hospital was the driver from the south side. Paydays 10th and 25th downtown was jammed. I came back 3 years ago and the state hospital is a mere shadow of what it was. But when you look around, we're still a state town. You look at Georgia College, you look at Georgia Military College, and the technical colleges. Our economic driver in Milledgeville now is the commerce of education. And I believe for us, when we look at the characteristics of that campus, there's obviously some leverage we can use to try to work with our education partners to see where the opportunity exists. I like to talk about the graduates that graduate from Georgia College every year. This June, there'll be about 1,200 students that go across that graduation platform. If we could find a way to blend 100 to 200 of those students staying in Milledgeville with their careers and present opportunities, they'll correct any economic deficiencies we got in the community. Our future is tied directly to how well we partner with our education partners.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And for those viewers out there watching, why is all of this so critically important to our viewers and to the citizens of Milledgeville and Baldwin County?
Well, I think we're at critical mass as a community, and I like to talk to the elected body. We're at a crossroads. We've really got to understand and define who we are based on what we are and not what we think we can be. And I look around, and when you bring people into Milledgeville, we brought in the CRE executives from Chicago. They look at a vibrant college town that's just budding with college students, a wonderful downtown area, and a tremendous resource on the south side. We've got to understand, how do we blend all that together to grow the future of this community? I think that's really what we're all about.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. And Mike, it's been a pleasure having you today. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you on next edition of MBC Connect.